and I have a brilliant guest today. Her name is Michelle Carr, and Michelle and myself are going to have a really good conversation on what is wrong with the QS role in particular, and tell us some great insights because she's a fantastic background in this area herself. She is founder of H Squared Construction and also Construction Alchemy, which helps business owners be more efficient, be better lean, and better professionals in their own business in terms of how to run a project, whether you're a developer, whether you're a construction company, or whether you're just somebody that needs additional support within the construction sector. She is your woman to go to. Michelle, it's great to have you on I'm the Gaffer. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Give us a little background. Where did you come from? How did you get where you are today?
So I've been in construction or around construction my entire life. Literally. My dad had a main contracting company when I was younger. I worked in there every school holiday. My mum worked there too. So I was in there in the accounts department filing things and goodness knows what back in the day when they'd only print things out and do you remember the printers with like the dotted line? Yeah, so they were noisy and they'd print 6 months worth of invoices or sheets or whatever, and I'd have to file them all or whatever. So yeah, I've been surrounded by them. And then as I got older, I'd spend every day after school there because I finished at 4:45, my brother finished at 5:30. And I started working in the QS department. There was a wonderful woman there. Her name was Sally. She was a QS there, and probably still one of the best QSs I've ever worked with in my entire life. She's brilliant. And she taught me bits and pieces. I was kind of helping her out because there weren't many women in the office, and you had the accounts department were mainly female, and the secretaries, and that was it. So I just ended up chilling out with her, and I started doing takeoffs when I was about 11 or 12. Yeah, and so yeah, that was that. And but of course, I was a droppy teenager. I wasn't going into the family business. I wasn't doing any of that. So I wanted to do face-to-face sales. Typical 18-year-old, had my degree. Not sorry, didn't have my degree then. Had my A levels, whatever. Didn't want to go to university because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I tried to get a sales job, couldn't get the sales job without the experience. And I got a telesales job, ended up in the Canaries, selling timeshare and holiday lets and all that kind of stuff. Came back, still didn't have the right experience. My dad basically said to me, I need an accountant, I need a QS. What do you want to do? I thought accountants were boring, so I decided to be a QS. So accountants aren't boring. And actually, I think I probably would have made a really good accountant, but I love building, so I'm probably in the right place. And that's how it started.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so how long did you stay in doing that then, in that role?
As a QS?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started, obviously I was doing takeoffs and goodness knows what else, like in my 14 and 15. And when I was doing my supposedly 2 weeks of work experience when I was 15 or 16 or however old you are, I ended up doing 3 months. And my dad's company had grown quite large then and it had a big contract in the city. And it was when United Bank Switzerland and Warburgs merged to UBS Warburgs, and they had this big massive refurb of Four Finsbury Square in London. And it's the first time, bear in mind this is what, 95, 96. I saw flat screen TVs and Bluetooth headsets. It was incredible. Anyway, I was working with Leeds, which is one of the obviously biggest QS firms in the world, over Arup, Arup Associates, like some of the TNT, the really big companies. And I really enjoyed working with them just as a shadowing people, really.
Yeah.
And then obviously as I went, I wasn't going to go with the business. So I'd already had a lot of experience. I got straight into university on quite a good course in Anglia Ruskin, and I started doing that. But I was working because I'd already had the experience working in the office. I started working as a junior QS straight away before I'd even started my degree. And I was working for my dad's firm, which a lot of people think is easy, working for being the boss's daughter, but it really isn't, because I needed a death certificate to get a death. I would say in 2020. So yeah, I think, sorry, not 2020. I started in 2002 as a QS, started my degree in 2004, and then
2009 hit when I was qualified. The country was in a bit of a mess. The recession had hit and it was a bit difficult. So I then started my dad's company, different company had gone bust. Milletary, the other company had gone bust in 2003.
That was fun. So yeah, that was difficult. And then I went freelance because I got offered a job and they were worried about taking me on because they had loads of work now, didn't know what was coming on. So would take me on a freelance 6 months contract. And that's how my freelancing career started. And then in about 2021, I went back to freelancing. I'd had some time off to have some kids, and I worked for a few companies, and I realised that the level of QS is about was actually pretty rubbish. I started my degree in 2004, pretty sure it was 2004, and that was the last year that you could do a degree before they hiked the prices up to like £9,000 a year or something like that. And things changed quite dramatically at the university, and I watched it happen while I was there. And what happened is you had a massive influx of international students and not so many in the, like British students. And I think part of the problem I've had, and then the recession hit and no one was going to do a QS degree, and some people did a degree to get the home buyers report and that was scrapped, and there was a whole lot going on at the time. So whenever I've needed work, doesn't matter what level I was at, as I experienced and went up the career ladder, I never had a difficulty getting work. I mean, as soon as I was ready for a new opportunity and put my CV out there, literally my phone would be off the hook. It would not stop ringing with recruiters because I've always had that demand. And so I've never had an issue with it. And then when I started working for much bigger companies, seeing all the other level of QSs and the quality and what they were doing, what they weren't doing, and I then realised that the level of experience and education that I'd had was a league above everybody else's. And so I'd also worked with PQS firms, so professional practices, contractors, developers. I've even worked for a modular company, a variety of different, in different sectors too, like really high end resi, social housing, hotels, shopping complexes, and anything in between. I realised that rather than that being a downside to it, actually it's given me quite a unique skill set. And so I wanted to do something a little bit more. I wanted to set up a practice that enabled me to train QSs the way that I'd been trained, because there was a lot of really bad ones. And bad, there's a number of ways you can call them bad. One of them, there are a lot, and not any subcontractor, but a lot of subcontractors will relate to this. There are a lot of QSs that just aren't particularly ethical. They are money driven. They will screw it. And savvy bushing has been around since, I don't know, the 80s, way before the Construction Act. It still goes on today. There's other QSs that just aren't very good QSs because they haven't had the right experience, or they don't have the right attitude or the right drive. And then you've got PQSs, which are great, but a lot of them don't have site experience. So there are so many, because QSs are involved in the entire project. So even before it's become a thing, literally as a concept, you'll have a QS involved until the end of it. And if there's a dispute and any part of the construction, because we're involved in all of it, it's difficult to always be an expert at every sector and every part of the job and part of the process. And therefore, but people don't tend to specialize. You'll get estimators that just do estimating, which are QSs by trade to some extent. But you don't really get specialists that zone in on, like you do a solicitor. A solicitor has the same training, same as a QS. A solicitor would have the legal training, and then they'll end up through experience specialising in something. And people don't tend to specialise as much in QSs, and they probably should do. So that's why I set up H squared, and then it ended up going in a different direction organically. So now what I want to do, or have been doing for the last probably 3 years now, is supporting people, because I have a QS degree. I've got a level 7 MVQ in senior management. I've also got a HND in law. I understand the Construction Act. It took me 10 years to probably get my head around the JCT properly, including back in the day when they all had to be handwritten. That was fun. But yeah, so I understand if it took me that long, and I'm quite academic, to get my head around a JCT contract, then it's not surprising that many contractors who are generally good with their hands are less academic potentially than I am, but good at building things, literally building things.
Yeah.
It made sense that they may not necessarily understand the way a contract works. And also, the more I dealt with them and the more contractors I speak to and the more companies I speak to, the more I realise that this is a massive problem in the industry. So yeah, there's a lot to do with it. There's psychological influence, there's things back from school that I've sort of figured out or I've got theories about, but ultimately there is a massive issue. One, there is not enough QSs. And when go back to the point with the university, I think people that were staying in the UK, they were being promoted so quickly coming out of university. You're having seniors, I was finding senior surveyors 3 years out of university. You just cannot get the level of experience to be a senior surveyor or a commercial manager in 3 years. It's just impossible. And I think that's part of the issue with the industry, because so many of them have gone off to Dubai or Australia, because there was a huge, I looked into it myself. There was a massive influx, and that people were throwing money at QSs to go to the Middle East or to Australia. And I just don't think there was that many of them left.
Yeah. I resonate with the not being specific in terms of, zoning in on a particular sector or zoning in on a particular industry as a QS, because my background is health and safety, and that's a big struggle in the industry that I operate in, is that safety people come out of college and like that too, they're hitting 60, 70,000 a year with a company car and, no experience. And again, and they don't have a niche in terms of not focusing on, manufacturing, not focusing on construction or whatever it is. So I don't know that. I think, yeah, I think in general, I think there's a problem, isn't there, in terms of what quality of people we're getting into the industry and how they're being managed
and educated.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with the labour market, it's getting worse, that there's less and less people to do the jobs that we need them to do. So, if you talk to the business owners, they're telling me, look, what am I going to do? If I don't pay it, they're just going to go up the road and get a job somewhere else. It's a big problem, like.
And also, I mean, the other problem with QSs is there are so many people that don't understand the value of a QS. They don't understand what the role they play is. If you're a developer potentially, or you're doing your own project, okay, potentially not for something if you're just doing a small extension, because it wouldn't be financially viable. But a decent QS is like a good accountant. They should save you double what they cost you at the minimum. I mean, with a QS, our ROI is massive, huge.
But sorry to cut across you, Michelle, but they're being measured on how much they can save or cut off the bottom line on the contractor's bill, as opposed to, how do we make the job more efficient in terms of the materials that's being bought or the labor that's being managed on the job. They're being told, look, if you can knock 20 grand off the contractor, you're going to be the highlight of the Friday breakfast roll.
That is the major problem in the industry. Right there, because that's one of the next things I was going to come to. A lot of people are under pressure and it's not necessarily bad QSs. I don't think some of the decisions that some QSs make are right. And I know that because as soon as I work for one of my clients and I start fighting back, they crumble very, very quickly. And I've also been on the other side. And I know in many, many companies that I've worked, we've got 1.2 million that we need to pay out on Friday, and there's only 900 grand in the bank. And you come up with all the excuses. The other thing is what I help with my clients is there are people that do get paid. Now, QS is generally, especially if they're decent, or even if they're not decent, are generally overworked because they are under so much pressure to jump through hoops, through left, right, and centre. And also, when people aren't getting paid, sometimes you just can't get a single thing done because you're on the phone making excuses, and it drives people insane. It's horrific, which is one of the reasons I kind of step back from that side of it. But you're right. You're pushed to save money, but then I also think that's down to the QS to step back. Now, personally, and I have done this on numerous occasions, and it's not always been popular, I don't believe in pushing back. Now, as a contractor, when I'm working as a contractor and I'm sitting in front of a potential client and there's an interview process and I'm up the top 3, I will tell them I am not going to be your cheapest. I know I'm not. You can look at your bottom line. I will not be your cheapest quote. I know that. But ultimately, I'm honest, and what I've priced is I can deliver this project for. I know I can. There's not going to be any silly provisional sums in there. They're realistic. I'll have a provisional sum purely because I cannot price it and I want to protect myself, not because I'm going to put something in as a provisional sum for 500 quid when actually I know full well it's going to cost me 50 grand. Like, I just won't do that. And I will have contingencies in there. And ultimately, I know that I can pay my guys well and I will pay my team well, because ultimately, when everyone is making money, they're happy, they're in a good place, everyone's in a great, and they will do favors for you. You screw someone down to the last penny, every time they have to buy a new screw, they're going to charge you for it, which is then going to cost my client more money, because I'm going to be doing a damn sight more going through a variation count that's 700 pages long. And there's and it's the same with financing. I do a lot of what I call it's fund monitoring, but it's different, and I call it investment protection, because obviously I've got more experience on site than what a PQS has. And when I'm looking at a project and figuring things out, if I think there's a problem with the company, the last thing that you should do is pull the funding or pull the funds. And it's the same with clients. When they start thinking there's a problem with the contractor, the last thing you can do is stop paying them, because that's where they need to get through. And it's getting those payments through, getting those materials on site, that kind of thing. But when someone's pushing me to screw a contractor, and I've done it numerous occasions, I won't do it because it's not the right thing for the project. Don't get me wrong. I've had people put in prices and I phone them up and go, listen, I know it's June, take your holiday out of this, you're taking the mick. And I've had that conversation, and they do, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But there's also projects that I'll say, listen, this one's not been priced great, it's tight. And there'll be other projects where, do you know what, there's a big piece of the pie, let them have a little bit out of another project if we're all making money. But there are so many people at top level in the construction industry that just want to it's all about money, and they're making millions, but they want to make more. And for me, I think we have a responsibility to try and make the world a better place. And I've tried numerous different things outside of construction, and construction's where I need to be. So for me, if I can support subcontractors and suppliers, or even the smaller people, and most of the clients I work with have turnovers between sort of 10, 15, 20 million. But what I also try to do, like I'm relaunching a podcast in next month, and other bits and pieces, what I'm trying to get out there is messages, and in my newsletter, supporting the smaller companies to say, look, there is another way. Because every time I support one of those and they get a little bit more money, or they get paid on time, or something happens, when you're dealing with, especially with SMEs or smaller subcontractors, you're affecting whether or not this kid is going to Disneyland next year or not.
Yeah.
Whereas saving a few extra thousand for a major corp, it just doesn't sit the same. So there's a lot of bullying going on. There's a lot of con in the construction industry. There's a lot of people trying to take advantage, but there are some really decent people. There's some terrible people, but there are some really, really decent people that are good at what they do. They just don't really know how to do the paperwork side of it, how to get paid, the contracts. They don't understand that if someone sends you a contract and you turn up on site, that means you've agreed to the terms of the contract. And there's so many things like that are sort of what's wrong with the industry, I suppose.
What about we talk about values and we talk about culture. Do you think trust is a big problem in the role of a QS?
100%. I mean, when I started my degree, I picked an RCS degree. It was accredited, and my plan was, as soon as I got out of university, to start my road to chartership with the RCS. That went to pot. I also started university with a child, pregnant, so that wasn't planned either. But I was told I couldn't have kids, so yeah, that was a whole different ball game and a few curveballs there. But ultimately, it's something I always wanted to do. But then, because I was freelancing and I was moving around and having a mentor, it just didn't happen. Then, to be fair, I was surprised. Not a single person asked me for it, and I didn't have an issue getting a job. I think it's possibly a bit different now. I think people are asking for that, but it never stopped me getting a job, and it never stopped me getting paid what I wanted to be paid either. So it didn't become a priority. And then when I started my own sort of business, I thought, I've got to be chartered. There's no two ways about it. No, I decided to go with the CIOB because it aligned with me better, and I think it's more important. But I think I've acted ethically. The way I got chartered, my charter seal, my membership came through about a month ago. I haven't changed in the way I operate. Obviously, I've got CIOB plastered everywhere now, but besides that, it hasn't actually changed the way I operate, because I've always operated the same. I just think it's important now because I'm expanding, and I think it just gives, sometimes you're speaking to one director of a team of 5, 3, 10, whatever it may be in a company. it just makes you have credibility for those of people that aren't in the room. Because as soon as somebody meets me or has a conversation with me, they know what I'm about. It's very clear. What you see is what you get with me.
Yeah.
But it's for those people that don't see me and I'm just on a name on a piece of paper. To have MCIOB makes a difference. And I do think there's a lot of that. But just because you have got letters after your name doesn't necessarily mean you're credible or authentic or a decent person, because I've also worked with some RSES members and fellows that aren't nice people and they're not ethical. So I do think the entire industry, the key issue is whether it's a decent person. So you'll have, for every, especially in the residential market, so people having work done to their house, you'll have, I'm sure everybody and people listening will know of at least one, if not 10 or 15 conversations they've had with someone. Oh yeah, we had this done and it was supposed to take 6 months and it was supposed to cost 200 grand and it took a year and it cost 300 grand and blah blah blah, and the builder this, the builder that, the builder something else. And I always ask a question: did you make any changes? No, we didn't change anything. Didn't change the light fitting, colours, furniture, location, nothing. Oh yeah, we changed this, we changed that, we changed something else. And I sort of do a basic thing of explaining going shopping, something that's easily relatable. You're popping into Tesco's and you're going home for a bit of dinner, takes you 25 minutes, costs you 20, 30 quid or whatever it may be. You're popping in for your weekly shop, costs you X amount, takes you X amount more time. You're going in for your big monthly shop, you're going Costco's, whatever, it's costing you £300 or £400, you're in there an hour and a half. It's the same with a shopping list with construction. The more that you do, and then if you're changing your mind and changing things, the longer it takes and more it costs. And people sort of change their attitude. And then you'll speak to contractors that did this job, and this client was a nightmare, and they didn't pay, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do that. Okay, did you explain a provisional sum? Did you get them expended? Did you did you have a contract? Did you sit down with them? Did you walk around the project with them? Did you show them the light fittings? Did you do this? Did you do that? No. There you go. Not so unreasonable. Now, don't get me wrong. There are clients that just won't pay and then instruct things. They don't have the money, they run out of the money and they just don't pay, but they carry on instructing and they just don't pay. They exist. There are also con artists out there that will tell you that your foundations are fine and they're not, and they'll put feathers in the wall instead of insulation or whatever it may be, and they will rip you off and they won't do the right job. 100%. There are both. But there are also some really good professionals. And what frustrates me about people in general is not doing their due diligence or paying for the services of professionals when they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, nobody, well, I say nobody, but I have a problem with my car. I wouldn't even think about touching it. I get a mechanic. I've got a leak in a pipe. I'm not going to look at it. I'll get a mechanic. And most people do that. But when it comes to construction, nobody thinks about employing consultants or checking with the consultant or even doing the due diligence on the consultant, phoning up references, doing credit checks, whatever it may be. People just don't tend to do that. And you can still get things wrong, but it's like having a conversation with this person. Do you get on? Do you like this person that you were going to enter into a contract on agreement with for 300 grand, 3 million, 20 million? Do you actually like the person you're going to be dealing with? Are you aligned? People don't. They just don't think.
It's a fair point. I'm always banging on the same drum. I don't understand why more people don't do pre-start workshops with their supply chain, just to sit down, get them out of the office or whatever they are for a day in a hotel. Even if it's a few drinks later on, it doesn't have to be. It can be just a dinner, sitting across the table. How are we going to make this project a success? What have you done in the past? Give us a presentation on how you're going to deliver a safe and profitable job on your side, and then sharing, information and stuff like that. I just can't get my head around why more people don't do that. And it doesn't have to be a big project. Like,
I think so many people don't spend enough time at what I call the front end.
On the way in.
The more time, literally an extra week at the beginning before you even put anything on the ground, an extra week, 2 weeks, months will save you weeks or months at the end. And ultimately, the other thing that people don't understand is they want to get started. As soon as you start, you've got welfare facilities, that's costing you money, a lot of it. And I've tried to explain to people before, like, you want to leave getting on site to the last minute, because as soon as you're there, you have to have the insurance in place, you have to have the warranties, you have to have the kitchen, depending on the size of the site, obviously. You still have to have welfare facilities and all the rest of it, and you have to abide by certain laws and legislation. You've got staff too. So when you start paying for the people, and that's the most expensive thing. It's the people. Save yourself the money. Don't bother getting it on site until you're ready, and then fly. And once you're ready, we'll just get on site. We'll just get on site. And I'm like, mate, you are going to cost yourself thousands. But also, it's about the way you deliver the message. So rather than just going, that's not the right thing to do. Well, who's going to answer that? Okay, if you do this, it's going to cost you 20 grand or 100 grand or 300,000 or whatever it may be. When you put a value to what that change is going to make a difference, all of a sudden people pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always done. Is like, yeah, of course you can change that light switch over there once it's been the room's been decorated. Of course you can change the light switch. It's going to cost you £1,000. They look at me like I'm mad.
No.
Then I explain to them why it's going to cost them £1,000. But if you did that at first fix stage when I asked you to, it wouldn't cost you anything. And these are the sort of it's also having that responsibility of, well, that's not my job. That's not my job. That's not my job. Well, actually, no, it's not my job to walk the client around the site. But ultimately, I can't deliver my job unless I know that's right and they understand. So, especially with high-end resi, I would walk around with the client and say, right, this is the kitchen. I like first fix electrical stage. This is the kitchen. The door opens this way. Your light switch is here. And the amount of times I go, oh, no. The door can't open that way. I've got this beautiful piece of furniture going there. Or the TV's going there, because all they see is the aesthetics and the finishes and what sofa's going where and the table, where they're going to maintain, like how they're going to live in this house. Okay, fine. Let's change the door. The door's going to open this way and the light switch is going that side. Fine, not a problem. At first fix stage, when you're going to hand over or you're putting furniture in and all of a sudden you can't put the piece of furniture in there because the door's in the way, that's when it's a problem and costing money. Now, is that my responsibility? Not really. It could be anyone's job, but ultimately I will take ownership of that because I know that I can deliver a better project when my client is informed.
No, I agree.
I mean, with directors all the time, especially when I'm doing non-exec director roles or supporting companies in either growth or startups or whatever point of of their journey they're in, the amount of times that they are making decisions based on the incorrect information, and once you switch that information around and the way that it's delivered, they make totally different decisions. And when you look at the information they're making decisions on, they're making the wrong decisions because they've got the wrong information. And ultimately, whose responsibility is it to make sure everyone's got the right information? Well, everybody's. Communication is not, I'm going to tell you something. If I'm communicating something to you, I need to make sure that you understand why I'm communicating. It's a two-way street. It's no point in me just saying the same thing 30 times. In order to be effective, you need to understand what I'm saying, because otherwise I haven't communicated properly. And it's things like that. And I don't know whether it's the fact that I'm a woman or a mum or whatever, but these are things I bring to the table. And it's surprising how many people are shocked by it, but then it's so effective.
Yeah. It's a big issue. It comes up on the podcast regularly. Lack of collaboration, lack of communication, lack of trust, and it all feeds into a toxic environment where something's going to go wrong and somebody's going to get hung out to dry for it.
Yeah. But also, I think I've been in many situations over the years, especially at my beginning years, where the project manager, for example, isn't delivering, or the site manager isn't delivering. I can't do my job unless those jobs are done properly. So I end up doing all of that. And making sure, like, for example, pre-start meetings, they should be done by a project manager. They're the ones, or a site manager, they're the ones running the site. But if it doesn't get done, I would do it because I know I can't do my job without it. And you end up working 20 hours a day while everybody else is clocking off at 4 and I'm still there at 8 or 9 o'clock and working weekends and bank holidays. But that was just as much on me as it was them. Like, why didn't I delegate? Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I go, hey, this isn't right? But ultimately, there's a training thing. So look, hey, let's have a conversation. I can't do this. You're going to be moaning at me next week because you can't order any materials because nothing's been paid. I can't release the account because you haven't done this, or I can't get payment, or I can't get money from the client because this hasn't been delivered, or this hasn't been done. And if you put things in a way that, I mean, I go into companies all the time and I literally will say to them, right, I will understand what their pain points are of each of the individuals in the organization. You don't like doing this, you don't like doing that. I'll go to them and it will often be something new. And I'll say to them, right, you're not going to like this. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to swear at me and roll your eyes at me, but bear with. And they sort of look at me like I'm crazy, because I suppose it's a crazy thing to say. We're going to set up a new system. And then that's it. The eye rolls come and whatever. And we sort of laugh about it. And I was like, but let me explain to you how this system is going to benefit you. And when you explain to somebody how getting on board and how your way of thinking is going to benefit them, that's when they get on board and then say, right, you're going to have to do this, which is annoying. I know it's annoying, but actually, if you do this way, you won't have to do X, Y, Z, and we can do this and we can do that and we can do something else. I mean, they'll often say to me, oh, but you're not going to get so-and-so on board. You leave that to me. And I get so-and-so on board, because ultimately everybody's different. And I mean, the other sort of key thing that I find frustrating in construction, and I don't know if it's anywhere else, because I only know construction, is everyone doing the same. Trying to treat every person, every project, every company, every business, every subcontractor the same.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued to find out, like, you know, when you get an inquiry, why are people coming to you, Michelle?
So people come to me.
What are they generally looking for? Like,
most of the time that people come to me, it's because they've been recommended by somebody else, and usually it's because they're in dispute or they're about to get into dispute. So most people come to me because they're not getting paid. They found out that one of the projects they're working on is in chaos. Somebody's left. They're having a dispute with someone. There's a problem of some sort. They normally come to me when it's in chaos, and as much as I can fix that, and to be fair, they're scared. I mean, most of the time, clients that come to me, they're scared, which isn't pleasant. It's great when I turn it all around and they're amazing. And I've on numerous occasions have said, invoice me whatever you need. You saved my life. I'll just pay it. I mean, it's a really weird position to be in, and I don't. It's not as comfortable as people would think. And I always get paid, and there's no issue. But ultimately, it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So I get them out, and then they'll talk to someone else, but they'll be talking to someone that's also in trouble. And when people are in trouble, and it depends on how far down the line they are, I usually can help and help something. It's very rare that I can't help a business, and I will be honest and I will say I can't help you for whatever reason it may be. But it's quite stressful, it's demanding, and it's expensive, and it doesn't need to be there. Everybody's a bit like this.
Yeah.
And it makes it more difficult. It's a much more of a battle. What I'm trying to do by getting out there a little bit more and getting people to understand that there is a different way is trying to get to people before they get to the point that they're about to lose their business or their sleepless nights and all the rest of it. So most people, come to me when they've got a major problem. Some will come to me because they've got a new client, they're expanding. People I know will come to me and say, right, I've got this new client, I want you to work with this and support us in this, or we're moving, or we're going to a new sector, or we're adding another service to our business. They'll come to me for that, clients I know. But new clients generally come to me when there's disaster has already struck, or they've got an adjudication, or they're in trouble, which I can get them out. But the whole idea of what I'm trying to promote is the fact is I can help you way before you get to that stage. And actually it's much more profitable if I get you earlier, before you get to the point that you're losing stuff, because one, I don't have to put so much time in, and two, you can get your own team to implement and do the work instead of paying me to do it, if that makes sense.
So you know, it goes back to the earlier conversation at the start. Like, why is the QS not doing their job then, and they have to bring you in?
I think it's lack of experience, it's lack of understanding, it's lack of education, and things just are different than how they used to be. I mean, it all depends on where you've got your experience in the first place. And university is just the start of it, as you know. And I think my experience is because I've worked with so many different places, because I've been freelance. So if you've had somebody that's been working for you for 10 years, that's all they know. They might not have other experiences elsewhere. But also when it comes down to, for example, I can tell whether a QS has ever been in a dispute or not, because if they've been in dispute, they will find contracts the best thing since sliced bread, and they will deal with them like they are gold, because you don't know how important a contract is until you need to rely on it. So if you've not been in dispute, you don't understand how you need that contract and how that contract's going to get you out of trouble. There's people that don't understand because they don't get the right information. So they'll be pricing a job, but as an estimator, for example, or a junior QS or something like that. But unless they get feedback from the team that have delivered at the end of the job and see what the final account was, to see what that actually cost, you don't know whether they're quoting things properly. They'll work with systems that they are given by the company. And if nobody's giving them the right systems, a lot of it is down to the leaders and the business owners. The problems with QSs is they either don't stand up or for whatever, but a lot of it is above the QS. So it's what they're being forced to do. Either they're given a company that isn't run properly, isn't making enough money, charges 20% markup, but actually their overheads are 22%. There's a problem. A lot of it is actually, you do have some QSs that just want to rip people off because they get a kick out of making more and more money, even though it's not their money. They just get a buzz out of making money. Don't get me wrong, I love making money, but not at cost. And there are some that, I don't know, just feel like the only way of doing it and the way the world works is screwing subcontractors. I don't know why they do the way they do, but a lot of the time it's the pressure from above, because I felt it.
Yeah, this was in my head earlier on. I was going to say it to you, but like, we don't really audit our QS people. Nobody comes in as from an independent point of view and go, okay, I'm going to see how you operate. I'm going to see what you've missed, and I'm going to see what you haven't missed. But I also want to see that you're doing things for the right reason, that you've got good values, good ethics, and that you know, this project is going to be a successful project because you're part of it, not because you're tearing down a subcontractor or putting somebody in serious risk of losing their business or maybe their life.
There isn't, no.
Do you not get phone calls to say, hey, Michelle, come on in, do a gap analysis on us and us as a business? And is there something that we can learn from here, that we, you know, have a fresh pair of eyes to come in and go, a little bit of sprinkle dust on this, a little bit of Michelle Carr on this, and everything's going to be perfect for the future? Like,
well, that's where the name Construction Alchemy come from, because what I tend to do is go into a business, and I'm not a square peg, round peg, whatever peg. I will go into a business and go, right, what have we got? Give me what you've got. Let's see what you're doing great, what you've done well, and let's work on that, and let's see what's not working so well. And part of the whole process is analyzing who does what and where, and whether they even like it. So one of the examples I often tell people is I went into a company and they had 5 QSs. So, and what they did is, and this happens a lot, that a QS will be given a project, they get to price it, and then if they win the project, they run it, they do all the contracts and whatever to the end of the completion.
Yeah.
Now that works for some people, because some people like to do that. They like to start a project and they like to see it through the end. Some QSs don't like leaving the house, leaving the house. Sometimes they don't like leaving the office. Some QSs don't like negotiating with subcontractors. Some people love the negotiation with subcontractors, and some like doing the final accounts. Like, not everyone is the same. And in this particular company, what I ended up doing was, there was a guy, and he was quite old school, and he was like, I price it, I deliver it, that's it. But because he was so passionate, every item was done properly. And what he liked was that he was doing a different part of a project at every stage. So he might have 2 or 3 or 4 projects on, and each one was at a different stage. So he was having that variety. Great, carry on, do your thing. Like, I checked what he was doing, no problem, had a few conversations. Do I need to support you? And he was very sort of shut down. Nope, I'm fine. I just want to do my thing. Right, do you know what? You go do your thing. I'm here if you need me. Another guy didn't like subcontractors, was quite intimidated, was quite quiet, quite meek, but he loved takeoffs, loved pricing, loved all that side of it. And I was like, right, other guy, he loved all the banter on site, going out for beers with the contractors and all the rest of it, and that malarkey, but liked all going and checking things, and he was great at it. There was another guy that was brilliant at like cloak of works and going around in detail and doing detail reports and all the rest of it. So I was like, right, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to deal with all of the funds or all of the clients' QSs and do the client walk around because you're great at it. You're going to deal with all of the subcontractors once in your site. You're going to do the estimating, and then if you've got variations, you price them as well, because this guy is never going to do a takeoff and never do a proper variation properly, and you deal with contracts because that's what you love. And that's what they did. And what happened was, things were priced properly, and then that person priced it, but they handed it over. So the contract was done properly. And then they handed it over to the team. So the guys got it. They did all the pre-contract meeting minutes and everything. The contracts were tied up tight. Everyone was happy. Both sides were happy with the contract. They knew what they were doing. So then this other guy's got a whole package of subcontractors. He just flew. And then at the end of it, there was no major battles with final accounts, because they were all agreed way before they even started, and everyone was on a good foot. And the production of this company went tenfold. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just by changing the way they did it.
But not just that. It goes back to what you said earlier on. Get in early and set the ground rules and set the structure and put the discipline, or as one of my clients says, put the manners on the project.
But also, like, it's getting people motivated, because when you're doing something you like, and I know that if you've got someone that's doing 20, but also on the other side of things with subbies and stuff, getting the information in properly. I mean, that how people do some, oh Jesus, some of the applications for payment I've seen, I'm just like, what on earth does that mean? Like, what all different colors and what? You're dealing with QSs. We deal with Excel and numbers. Like, we're digits, we're bean counters. Like, I hate the phrase, but ultimately we deal with numbers. And you're doing something that's all pretty and got this, that, and the other. I get that works for you. You're a decorator. You're all about colors. That's not what you've got to deliver. And also, what people don't understand is I've got to take this and I've got to put it in a format that my account department is going to accept and sign off. And also, I've got to put it into my CVR and all this stuff. And I'm just like, where the hell do I start? So what happens is that, and it's not right, but what happens is that's at the bottom of the list. The ones, the payment applications get done quickest. And yeah, now you can adjudicate if you don't get pay less notice. But I'm talking just to make life easier. The ones that are easiest, and you put in an application for payment and you've got a Site Audit Pro attached to it, showing all your materials on the site, blah, 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 blah. I don't even have to leave my desk to sign that off. You have to. A QS should be going to site regularly. But ultimately, if you've got a deadline, wow, I've got all these applications and I can sign them off without leaving my desk, win. You are going to be straight in there at the top of the line to get paid. And it's, so I work with my subcontractors, for example, to say, right, let's get the information, the process is done, and make it easy for your people and get it to work. Right, Site Audit Pro doesn't work for you, let's work this. This doesn't work for you, let's do it this way. Find a different way of making it work, but to deliver what the QS wants to get what you need. But then the QS should be saying, I'm not, this is part of the contract, part of the agreement. You need to fill this form out, you need to do it in this format, or you reject it. And if you start issuing pay less notices saying your information isn't accurate, or using a term in the contract to say you haven't displayed what you need to do, this is what you're going to do, and cut their payment and say this is why, there are ways of getting people to work in the way. And I don't like to go too aggressive, but ultimately, right, let's have a conversation. This isn't working. Why? If you do this, this is how it's going to benefit you. And if they don't listen, they don't listen. After a point, you go, right, you've had 3 strikes. I'm not paying it. I'm rejecting this. This isn't the format we've asked for. I'm not looking at it again until you send it in the right format. But it's having that faith and that understanding and I suppose a confidence to be able to say, hey, no, I'm not accepting this. This is not how it's supposed to be. This isn't what's in a contract. And a lot of people will say, oh, we're not getting contractual. I don't want to get contractual. That's what contract is for.
Yeah.
And
the honor system is gone, doesn't it? You know, the honor is in the contract.
And people are scared of writing contracts, but there is a way of negotiating a contract that suits you. And the idea of a contract is for both parties. Now, it's very complicated now because a lot of solicitors have got involved with contracts, and they write them in a very different outlook. They want to remove all risk. They don't understand construction, and some of them will end up creating more risk. Again, I'm agreeing a contract, and I've sat in rooms and there's been 12 solicitors in there, funders, there've been room of 25 people, and I've gone through and I'm going, nope, nope, nope. But I don't say, no, I'm not agreeing to that. I'm not agreeing that because this is exposing your client. Gone.
Yeah.
If I turn around and go, right, this is it, exposing your client because of this, this, and this. This is what you're doing, this, and this. This is why this. All of a sudden you'll be like, they're so open to it. You can end up with, and I've gone into literally people all frosty and crushing my hand when they're welcoming me, like, and I'm like, yeah, okay, here we go. And at the end of it, like, they're like, oh, who's this psycho? She's a pain in the arse. She's doing this, that, and the other. Once they understand where I'm coming from, and actually and realize what they're doing, at the end of the meeting, and some of these are like 8 hours long, it's exhausting. They shake my hand and they hold it and they look me in the eye. A pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Because I've just trained their entire team on how to write a construction contract properly.
Yeah, brilliant.
Love it. But then every contract I've written in that way has never gone to dispute because everyone's friendly. And it's much better to have the aggression and at the beginning, and then hold on, let's come away with let's shake hands. Let's get a contract that works for you, works for me. I know where I stand and what I'm doing. I know what your expectations are of me and vice versa. Let's do this, because you've got that security blanket of if things do go wrong, you have already agreed how you're going to deal with any problems. And avoiding contracts and not sticking by them is the worst thing that you can do. But I get why people are fearful. So a lot of the work that I do starts with contracts. People think I'm a contract specialist. I'm not. I'm a construction company transformation specialist, really. but it always boils down to the contracts of, even your contracts of employment. So it's just understanding that they're not to be scared of. They're actually something. They're a skill. They're a weapon. They're a tool. Whatever you want to use them, they are something that can protect you, and you can use them properly. And it's just changing people's mindsets to actually looking at them. And yeah, the amount of people that will get someone to look at their contract, but they don't get someone to tell them this is what your contract says.
Yeah.
Like, I'll write a synopsis. Do this, if this happens, do this. If this happens, does that. Blah blah blah. And there are items in there. If this happens, call me.
Yeah.
Like, let's not muck about. Call me. But if set this form, and I can set forms up so it's automated. This happens, I've got a variation. The clause is already in there to the contract. It's clause this, and this. This is what you need to do. All they've got to do is put their little bit in, and it's just making things work in a better way and more efficiently, and setting up a system that works for the individuals, the business, the projects they run, even the offices they sit in, whatever it may be. It's finding a way to get everything moving how it should be in like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and in a language that's understood, obviously, as well. I have a few curveball questions to throw at you, Michelle.
All right, let's go for it.
Knowing what you know now, what would you do different in life?
In life?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It can be business, like it can be your business life, it can be whatever.
I think knowing what I know now, I would have got out of my own way a long time ago, and I would have set up what I've set up now 10, 15 years ago, 100%. I would have had the confidence to do it. Yeah. Life is, I've dealt with a lot of life, should we say, over the years, and that leaves its mark for a while. But yeah, that's what I would do differently. I think I'd also probably have empowered more people sooner. And I think I kept quiet for far too long, which is why I think I'm so passionate about helping people, because I think there's a frustration deep down that I didn't do what I should have done 15, 20, 25 years ago. I mean, I'm sure we've all got regrets of things that we should have done better 25 years ago, but that's what happens with experience. But yeah, that's what I would probably say.
A favorite book or movie or both?
That's a tough one. Most of the books that I read at the moment are for kids and movies. But I think, I tell you, one of my favourite books was The Buddha and the Badass.
Okay.
That was a bit of a game changer for me, because I've always been quite spiritual. And I mean, God, if you look at my office, it's surrounding crystals and essential oils and goodness knows what else. Like, I'm a bit of a hippie. But I work in construction. So I'm very mixed. And I think if I'd read something like that potentially sooner, and understanding that actually you can be both, and just because I don't have to hug trees and wear leery colours to be spiritual, I am who I am, and that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have a place anywhere else.
Wow.
So I think, so The Buddha and the Badass, that was really, really good, because it gets to the core of who you are and what you want to do. So it's like, everyone's heard of start with your why. It kind of takes your why a step further, and it's like, what is the core, your ethics of you and who you are in your business? And that was the start of a massive journey for me. Favorite films, I've got loads of them. Probably Jungle Book or The Lion King. I mind you saying that I also like Frozen. I like the fact in Frozen that the Prince Charming's actually an asshole, and the real decent guy is the one that she gets with in the end. I do like that.
It's funny you mentioned the spiritual side of things, because we done a podcast a couple of weeks ago on spiritualism in construction.
I saw that.
Yeah. But listen, Michelle, like, one thing I'm going to say to you is your passion, like, just exploded on this podcast.
Sorry about that.
I found it hard to get a word in edgeways with you, which is great, because you're just a mile a minute. If people want to contact you, why would they contact you? I know where they would, but why would they contact you, and where did they go?
So probably the best place to find me is either on LinkedIn or my website, which is Michelle, MICHELLE -Carr, CARR.co.uk. That's probably the easiest place to find me, or as I said, on LinkedIn. And ideally, if you need support, chaos, you're about to grow, you need to grow, you have grown, you're on a startup, you need some protection, you need someone that's going to give you cold, hard, honest advice and actually have an impact on your business, then that's why you need to give me a call.
Brilliant. And I definitely took a lot away from today's podcast. Even for someone like yourself to come in and do a gap analysis on how a construction project has been set up, and you know, is there lessons to be learned out of that, and is there training to be done then after that, and is there recruitment policies that need to be really looked at better because of, you know, putting the wrong people in the wrong position. I thought that was a great case study that you gave us in terms of people are different. Some people are more admin focused and some people are more people focused and so on and so forth. And it was great that you recognized that. I thought that was a brilliant case study.
I have identical twin boys and they have to be parented differently.
Well, there you go.
That's been a bit of an eye-opener, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good with people before, but if you understand that I have to parent my identical twin boys differently, it does open your eyes up about how other people operate.
Yeah. And that's another podcast for another day. Michelle, thanks very much. We'd love to get you back on the show again in the future. It's been an absolute pleasure.
More than welcome, and I'd be happy to come back.
Brilliant.
Thank you.